Good morning. There are a bunch of crows up here. They're just having a fighting match in terms of cawing. I'm not sure if they had a problem with each other, but they were really at it. Maybe they have a territory dispute. But there were a whole bunch of them up here. Yeah, they're going at it again. A little bit. So it just got my attention how loud they were. They were much louder actually, but that's okay. They did a little bit for you there. So people, who is the worst person in your life? Who is the person that you'd like not to be there at all? To eliminate from the scene? And today I got great news for you. That we need to change. We need to change. Do you notice the hump up in Mount Arbel there? Just another little detail of the architectural sensitivity here. We need a little bit more height to really appreciate it. But the dome on Ducan Altum that's right there in the center of the screen, you have that bulge here toward us and another one further over. Those are the apses of the little chapels. And then the dome, where those birds were just flying back there, well, right there now, the dome in the center of the screen matches that type of dome on Mount Arbel. And this was done intentionally. You have all that line here that's more or less horizontally, more or less at the same level, and that's this part of Ducan Altum. And then you have the dome, which matches that dome there. You know, the team that really put Magdala together really was a very blessed team. Funny, I'm saying that now at the same time that I'm saying, who's the person that you dislike most, that you'd like to change most, that's there in your life? Who is that person? Just identify them. A politician. Is there one politician that you would like just to have out of the scene? Now, there are ways to do that, obviously, in elections. But think of really hardcore people that you don't like. Think of somebody, the family. Maybe it's an in-law. Maybe it's a child that, you know, it's a very difficult child. Lots of problems. Maybe there are drugs in the picture. Maybe very unhealthy relationships. Think of somebody at work. Maybe it's a boss. Maybe it's the owner. Maybe it's a coworker. Maybe it's a manager that you have to report to. You see there's somebody there in the screen. Do you notice? You just wave to them, okay? We're in for a lovely sunrise this morning. So have you identified that person? And that you'd sleep a lot better if that person wasn't on your mind? You would be a happier person if that person wasn't around? You're kind of thinking if that person never existed, it would have been better. That kind of person, you know? It's a real pain in the neck. You know that expression, or do I need to explain it? A person who's a pain in the neck. So think of that, identify them, put their first name. What's their first name? Don't write it, okay? Don't write it. Or you can write it down for yourself, but don't put it in the commentaries, okay? First name, last name, you can be very precise and put down the middle name so there's no question about confusion. And that kind of person can become the most important person in your life and greatest benefactor. You can be a great beneficiary of that person. And that's the story of today. Today we have a little break in our normal reading pattern. to do something very special. And we're celebrating a guy whose name was changed from Saul to Paul. And this guy was persecuting Christians. He got the support of the top leadership in Jerusalem to provide letters to endorse his efforts, to commission him to go and stomp out this new little rascal that's coming around. Oh, can you see the fisherman? Look. Let's see if we get closer. I can't walk straight through there because the water is just down there and there's no path. Let's follow the path. Even though it might be a little bit longer, it seems to take us away. The path brings us to the right place. That's why Jesus says, I am the way, because his way mightn't seem the smartest way to us sometimes, because we have smarter ideas than Jesus, and yet following his way can be precisely the best way to get there. I am the way, the truth, and the life. The path is so helpful, even right here. But I have to watch Soder because sometimes she stops on the path and she, adds to the path. So I have to be careful where I step. It looks like this is growing every day. I did that the other day. One of the participants took out Kleenex to dry their face because they got all wet when the leaf hit the screen. It's actually very wet and it didn't rain, so it must be the condensation, the cold. Oh, there we have the fisherman. Look at our favorite fisherman here, people, on the Sea of Galilee at sunrise. Isn't that lovely? That counter light is excellent because it's really what's allowing them to stand out very clearly. And they're working the nets, I can see just by their hand movements. Let's focus on them a little bit. Here you have your fisherman. You should go back a couple of days. It's on the heading of the post. Fisherman, it should be on, at least it's on the YouTube one. And you can see the nets sparkling in the sun. Oh, I saw something yesterday. I might be still here. Let me see. It was just a chunk of net, just like they were doing. And I saw it along here someplace. But all I see right now is garbage. But there was a chunk of net on the ground. Or maybe it's over here. I was standing right beside it. Look at this. This is the net that they're using, this type of stuff. Well, those are my fingers. They're not fish, okay? So this is a big piece of net here that has all kinds of garbage and like plant material. So that's what they're using to haul in the fish. for sunrise along here. We'll keep moving right now. Because it's quite chilly. It's about 7 degrees, and that's very chilly for us. You'd be happy to have chilly 7 degrees in many places where you are right now, but it's chilly for us here. So people, the story today is about the conversion of Saul. And everybody's trying to tell God, God, that's not the guy. He's coming to kill us. He's coming to destroy us. And there's an abundance of those kind of people out there still today. There always has been. And the church is on its knees in those circumstances. And the church is before God in those circumstances. The church is praying intensely in those circumstances. What a great way to live, to be praying intensely. There's the sunrise, people. I'm going to park here for a moment. Let me get you here. Look at this. Sea of Galilee, fishermen, fishing, sunrise. Isn't that good? A nice way to start your day, or if you're in the Western Americas, to finish your day. Contemplating this scene. And there's the sun rising. Let me go just a tad further south here, just to line up the fishermen with the sun before it gets too bright. Exactly, perfect spot here, I think. There we are. They're moving now. So did you write down the name of the person that you want out of your life, out of the world? You want God to take them to their eternal reward as fast as possible? And you have the words for that? This scene is so beautiful. We're going to stop here to read the passage so that we can enjoy the scene. Let's stop here for a moment. Paul addressed the people in these words. I am a Jew, born in Tarsus in Cilicia. So we're talking up there in the area of Turkey probably, right? But brought up in this city at the feet of Gamaliel. So he's speaking in Jerusalem. I was educated. Gamaliel was one of the greatest Jewish scholars and teachers at that time. I was educated strictly in our ancestral law and was zealous for God, just as all of you are today. I persecuted this way. That was one of the names of the Christian community, the way. I persecuted this way to death, binding both men and women and delivering them to prison. Even the high priest and the whole council of elders can testify on my behalf. For from them I even received letters to the brothers and set out for Damascus to bring back to Jerusalem in chains for punishment those there as well. And then he tells the story as he drew near to Damascus. People, do you know that we are closer to Damascus? Let me change the focus here a little bit and zoom out to make it easier for you and for me. Look we are closer to Damascus, that's in that direction, in the center of the screen, than we are to Jerusalem, which is south of us. We are closer to Damascus here. So we're not far away from where this happened. Okay? On the journey to Damascus, about noon, a great light from the sky suddenly shone around me. I fell to the ground and heard a voice saying to me, Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me? I replied, Who are you, sir? And he said to me, I am Jesus the Nazarene, whom you are persecuting. My companions saw the light but did not hear the voice of the one who spoke to me. I asked, What shall I do, sir? The Lord answered me, Get up and go into Damascus, and there you will be told about everything appointed for you to do. Since I could see nothing because of the brightness of the light. We talked about that the other day. There's so much light you can't see anything. I could not see anything because of the brightness of that light. I was led by hand. That's part of being a disciple. We have to get off our high horse. We have to accept guidance from others. I was led by hand by my companions and entered Damascus. A certain Ananias, a devout observer of the law and highly spoken of by all the Jews who lived there, came to me and stood there and said, Saul, my brother, regain your sight. Just a little side note, my brother. The use of brother is very interesting. We talked about this a couple of days ago. In the Semitic world, they're very, I would say, how would you say it? Very attuned to bonds. And there could be family and there could be extended family. And it could be in an association, it could be in a community. It's very powerful. The word brother has a different application. Saul, my brother, regain your sight. At that moment I regained my sight and saw him. It's really amazing. And then he says, the God of our ancestors designated you to know his will, to see the righteous one, and to hear the sound of his voice. For you will be his witness before all to what you have seen and heard. Now, why delay? Get up, have yourself baptized, and your sins washed away, calling upon his name. And there you have, very interestingly, the whole idea of the baptism and how baptism is a huge grace. Your sins washed away. How the early Christian community understood the effective working of this, because Christ works through baptism. All of the sacraments, Christ works through them. They are how Christ works. He became flesh for a little baby born from a woman, a teenage girl. And this tangibility of God wanted to be tangible. First of all, he gave us the world. Then he gave us images of himself in each person beside us. Tangible images of him where we can love him through them. This whole idea that God is so tangibly close to us. And there was Saul, tangibly filled with grace in his baptism. All his sins washed away. I'm impressed also by the fact that he does it immediately, that he is ready to go immediately. This docility that we see in the vocations of the first disciples, it's powerful, people. Let's walk a little bit. I just find the story of Paul so fascinating, and it's told a number of times. If you write down Paul's conversion, you'll get the stories. There's one in the Acts of the Apostles, that was 22, chapter 22. In chapter 9, it has a much more detailed account, which is very worth reading. And then there's another chapter in one of Paul's letters, and I'm sorry that I didn't check that out before I started talking, but you'll find it. And so we have these various accounts, because in different times he tells his story. You see how important the vocation story is. The time that God comes into our lives, his grace is given to us. That's very powerful. And that's very meaningful, and it's important to go back to our own vocation story. When grace hit our lives, to record it, to celebrate it. And there can be revivals of our vocation through life. A moment when grace comes back in a more powerful way, and we are blessed to be renewed in our relationship with God. That's worth a lot. It's really a gold mine for our spiritual lives, to realize that God is there calling me, talking to me, interested in my life, pulling my act together. The call of the fisherman, that's always a big famous one, but Paul's call is so important. And tie that together now with the person in your life that you would like to write off existence and say, Lord, when are you coming into that person's life? You know, people, there's much more conversion going on than the media would tell us. There are more and more people finding God. More and more people. Somewhere a couple of years ago, I found numerous reports throughout the year of major French anti-church intellectuals, and each of them would have had their own single individual path, but a lot of them, and that's actually a common phenomenon in France through the centuries. It's interesting, in the modern centuries, recent centuries, we see a lot of that happening. Imagine the person that you think is kind of the worst person you could imagine right now in politics, in religion, in social life, at work, in your family, and that person could become the key person. Look what Saul did. He wrote half the New Testament. He evangelized all the Eastern Mediterranean as far as Rome. The sufferings he had for Christ, the life he led. You know, let's believe in the power of prayer, people. All the worry we put into things, all the bitterness we experience in our heart, all the criticism that we feel towards people, let's turn that into prayer. Let's turn that into prayer. That would be the smartest thing we could do. That would be absolutely the smartest thing we could do. The power of prayer. So many people come through here to walk, to hike, to run, and I never read that sign out as clearly as right now. Well, the fishermen are right here, but this grass is prohibitively wet and there's no path, so I'm sorry, I'm not going there. I explained these stones a day or two ago to you. They are, in case you missed it, if you weren't with us, they are descriptions by the park authority of the area around the lake in terms of the nature and instructions how to protect it. Typical type of park language, just done very beautifully on those stones. We still have one stone to fully decipher, but that's the main gist of it. So people, I think we've done our shot for today. I'm so happy you joined us. And this is for you. Well, I enjoy it as well. It's great to be out in the morning. I know there are people out there waiting to meet, to be together here, and to enjoy this incredible scenery and such a special place at the Sea of Galilee. Our fishermen are really moving there now. Just heard their motors cranking up. With their catch. Sea of Galilee, people, fishermen, 2 men in their boat. And may the Lord bless them profoundly with the abundance of his blessings, like he did to the sets of brothers who were fishing. And you don't have to be fishing. You could be on the road to Damascus. You could have crazy ideas in your head, crazy behaviors, very unsocial. And there's the Lord. And he's come with all the clarity of his light. And we open up the doors. We say, God, come in. You are welcome in my heart. You are welcome in my life. Help me to change. Help me to change towards the worst person right now in my life, the biggest obstacle for me, bigger than that cliff. And let that person become the source of amazing blessing. Bless that person, Lord. Bless them, the people I don't like. The people who are a burden for me. Lord, I want you to bless them abundantly. God bless you. See you later, alligators.